expected it to be very brief yesterday. But everyone went on and on and on. And everyone was saying, retire, retire, and write. So I retired and it's usually one paragraph. So through a letter dated 3rd November 2022 by Senior Principal Prosecution Counsel, Mrs. Vera Amolo Amisi, the Director of Public Prosecution seeks to have the present criminal case withdrawn against all the accused persons under Section 87A of the Criminal Procedure Code on the basis of an affidavit of support report by number 23-1077, Kuria Obadia, a Senior Superintendent of Police and leading investigator in this matter. The affidavit in support of the application is dated 2nd November this year, and it was filed in court on the same day. In the subject affidavit, the investigating officer essentially relies on two grounds which are well articulated in paragraphs 5 and 6 of the document, being number 1, that the investigation team was given very strict and fixed timelines to come up with findings promptly, which made it very difficult to conduct thorough and comprehensive investigations into the allegations raised by the complainant. But secondly, that while investigations were still in progress, Mr. George Kinoti directed the investigating team to make recommendations that will enable the accused persons to face charges based on, and therefore based on immense pressure, the team made the recommendation. Now, Ms. Muriungi, for Director of Public Prosecution, buttressed the application by insisting that in spite of the office writing several letters to the investigating team seeking evidence covering specific areas, they received no response. All accused persons, through their respective counsel, supported the prosecution's application to have the matter withdrawn under Section 87A of the Criminal Procedure Code. On cross-examination by Senior Counsel Kilukumi for the first accused, the investigating officer largely alluded to the contents of his affidavit dated 2nd November 2022. However, he indicated that the investigating team acted on the basis of a complaint from the Financial Reporting Center and that the matter was not politically instigated to harass and portray his client, that is, first accused is Honorable Nderitu Gachagua. We know him as, is it Rigiji? to the electorate as not being electorable. It is now common knowledge that first accused is the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, whereas again yesterday it also came to my knowledge that second accused is it current Senator Funyeri? That is Honorable Wahome Mwangi. I believe this is why the issue of political harassment has been taunted by the defense as the reason for the arrest of the accused persons. It will be repetitive for the court to delve into submissions of each individual counsel in respect to the instant applications, since they all associated themselves with the submission by Senior Counsel Kilukumi for the first accused. Essentially, they are of the view that first accused was the principal target in this matter, and the rest of accused persons are merely collateral damage, hence the entire proceedings amount to abuse of due process. Mr. Makoha, for the third accused, took the argument a notch higher by suggesting that the office of the DPP and DCI basically abdicated from their constitutional roles and urged the court to try and make recommendation to the effect that no charges should ever be preferred against anyone before investigations are concluded, and that there should be full disclosure of evidence before commencement of a criminal trial. In response, Ms. Muriungi for the state told the court that the office of the DPP relies on policy guidelines before the decision to charge is taken. The policy guidelines provide for 3 tests. I didn't know this. There's the evidential test, there's the public interest test, and the threshold test. In this matter, the DPP relied on the threshold test based on available evidence with the expectation of further evidence. With the expectation that further evidence will be availed before the hearing date. Council further added that under Section 54, under Section 5(4)(e) of the DPP Act, the DPP has the powers to review any criminal case. It was of the view that if A3 felt that his rights had been violated, he ought to have moved the High Court, since this court allegedly lacks jurisdiction to entertain such. I differ on that issue, but again, won't delve in it because it's not part of what was to be done. There being no objection to the substantive application by the prosecution to have the matter withdrawn under Section 87A of the Criminal Procedure Code, the application is hereby granted. Now, the accused persons are hereby warned and informed that they may be rearrested in future and on the same or similar charges. However, as suggested by counsel for accused number 3, I believe it is important for courts of law to make recommendations which might improve the criminal justice system based on real-time observations. As court of laws, we are no longer passive arbiters of everything and anything that is presented before us for adjudication. Never, in my view, should the judicial system be used as a stopgap measure or even a doormat. There is need to respect institutions. Recommendations are necessary at whatever level. More so, when a criminal process seems to overtly offend Article 52 of the Constitution of Kenya, which provides that every accused person has a right to a fair trial. I have read and reread I've read and reread it's Article 157. Article 157 of the Constitution of Kenya, which establishes the office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. It is a very, very powerful constitutional office, and it is subordinate to none when it comes to the instituting, taking over, and discontinuation of criminal proceedings in the Republic of Kenya. The DPP is basically in charge of conduct of all criminal proceedings in the Republic. Under Article 157(4), same Constitution, the Director of Public Prosecution has been granted powers to direct the Inspector General of the Police Service to investigate any information or allegation of criminal conduct, and the Inspector General shall comply with any such directions. It is common knowledge that DCI, that is Directorate of Criminal Investigation, is the investigative arm of the Kenya Police Service, which is led by the Inspector General of Police. The question that begs an answer at this juncture is how come in this matter is how come in this matter the Director of Public Prosecution seemed to have acted and preferred charges based on inconclusive investigations, since they were anticipating for evidence. One cannot be faulted to infer that he acted also under pressure. One cannot be faulted to infer that he acted under pressure from his junior, the DCIO, contrary to expectations of the office. The issue of adherence to some internal policy guidelines can never be the basis to deny a citizen his liberty. There is, in my view, only one logical threshold that should be the basis of charging any citizen. That is evidentiary value. Evidence presented should be able to prove a case beyond reasonable doubt. Under Section 157(11) Constitution of Kenya, while exercising powers of his office, DPP is expected to have regard to public interest, the interest of administration of justice, and the need to prevent abuse of legal process. These proceedings are testimony to the fact that the DPP acted contrary to Article 157 in its entirety. One cannot prefer charges in anticipation of evidence, since plea taking is not a simple thing. It's not a simple event. It leads to denial of liberty, public ridicule, many a times stress, which might even lead to unnecessary loss of life. I know of people who have divorced because they took plea. It is not something simple. The decision to charge, in my view, must be exercised judiciously, sapiently, impartially, and independently. Now, I have been asked to make recommendations, and I feel obligated to do so in order to avoid a replication of the events in these proceedings in future. In my view, Parliament should consider passing the necessary legislation to establish an office of the pre-trial judge, akin to what we have in Francophone system. That office should subject activities of Director of Public Prosecution, the DCI, and any other investigating authorities as relates to intended charges to scrutiny, determine number of witnesses to be bonded based on quality of the testimony, and in fact set down the timelines of each case. Once such issues are determined, the defense should be invited and full disclosure be done before matters are forwarded for plea taking and commencement of a trial. I state so because I'm horrified to learn that we could sit here hearing matters, yet we are still fishing for evidence. We write and write and write. Yet the matter, some matters really, it would appear, have been brought probably on account of public interest. It is not fair. Or, so to say, ulterior motive. So once the office of pre-trial judge establishes that there is a real likelihood that there's a, once the office of the pre-trial judge establishes that there is ample evidence, of course in tandem with the other offices, chances are that plea taking, plea bargain shall be the norm in this country rather than plea taking, because an accused person will actually see the evidence that is facing them, and more or less they'll just enter into plea bargain. That is what happens in countries with strong judicial systems. It is unfair, as I stated earlier, to subject officers, judicial officers, to taking lengthy notes and hearing ridiculous witnesses. Again, sorry, when we are still fishing for evidence, or rather when we know really there is no case. That particular office would eradicate the ghost of backlog in the judiciary. Again, second recommendation, this one is personal view. We should introduction of personal, prosecutorial and investigative liability. Investigators and prosecution counsel have played a blame game in this matter. I have heard them. They are our fellow citizens. What they are simply saying in different tones and words is that we were instructed to proceed and operate within what was at hand. Definitely, administrative action will follow if they refused to comply. However, with the introduction of personal, prosecutorial and investigative liability, such officers would be able to stand firm, unshaken, and resist the devil at all times. They would say, I'll face the sack. I mean, you can't push me to do what is wrong. I wind up by quoting what Lord Action once said, power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. It's a high time for all players in the justice system to embrace professionalism for the good of the nation. The law should never be applied selectively, but equally to all Kenyans. As investigators, prosecutors, judicial and even judicial officers, we have a responsibility to clean this system or make it better. You never know, we may end up being subjected to the same process. Yet we have time now to change. Now, we have parliamentarians here. I think number 1 and 2. It's Wahome, you are here. Yeah, you should take up the initiative.
I give you honor.
Don't go there and bang your, how they clap. Come up with this legislation. Let us have this office to be serving what the other 2 offices are doing. 3 are better than 2. So it has been proved 2 can connive. So that is all. So the application is basically granted. We have cash bills.
Yes, Your Honor, the 12 million shillings as condition for his release, and he also deposited his passport in court. We apply that the cash bail be refunded to the first accused and his passport be released to him.
So the same applies to...
And all the other accused persons?
All other accused persons.
Yes.
Cash bail, bond, that's all.
Yes. Thank you. So we come back and take the money and the passport. Yes, the money. We can get the money this afternoon. Why this afternoon?
This is the way to get the money.
Why is this the way to get the money? Why not this morning?
This is the way to get the money.
So we need to complete this.
Complete this. He himself.
No. Yeah.
Well, let me say that one would expect that one would feel happy, but I feel saddened to know that the last 3 years we've walked a journey that everybody knew that has been the use of the police forces, the use of the judiciary to oppress people who are of a different opinion. The saddest thing in the history of this country is that we were here 24 years ago during the Moi regime. We found ourselves again there in the last 5 years of the Jubilee government, where we have witnessed the weaponization of the state corporations like KRA, like the EACC, like the judiciary, like the DPP. Moving forward, being now in the parliament, I would want to assure Kenyans that they will never again have to fear or speak in whispers or be forced to use such WhatsApp to call their friends because they fear that they could be followed by the police. This should not happen, and it will not happen. We'll put legislative measures in place. The judge did actually a good, very, very good recommendation that we should have an independent third hand that should be looking into this kind of cases so that they can be arrested even before they're brought in before courts, because at the end of the day, this is punishing Kenyans, and as the judge has rightfully observed, the DPP, the DCI ought to have from the word go known that you cannot take someone in court in anticipation that you will get further evidence. It is in constitutional right of every Kenyan, and every Kenyan is presumed to be innocent until proven guilty, and therefore taking someone in court with the anticipation that you will find some evidence is actually not only unconstitutional, but goes against even the very same spirit of our constitution to enshrine the freedom of all Kenyans until they be found guilty. Thank you muno. Maritwa njĩtagwo Senator Wahome Matiga kuma Nyeri County. Muthenya wa ũmũthĩ nĩ twaigua tũkenete na tũkigua twĩna kĩeha atĩ cira ũrĩa ũkoretwo ũtũrũmĩrĩire mĩaka 3 mĩthiru twĩna Deputy President Rigathi wa Gachagua na Judge nĩ aunina, no tũkaigua twĩna kĩeha nĩ kũmenya atĩ magoti nĩ mangĩamenyire, prosecutor nĩ angĩamenyire, DPP nĩ mangĩamenyire atĩ ndũngĩtwara mũndũ igoti-inĩ wĩna mwĩhoko atĩ nĩ ũkona ũira nĩgetha ũhote kũmũthitanga. Nĩ tũkwenda kũria thirikari ĩrĩa ĩrĩ kuo, tondũ nĩ tũraugire gũtirĩ mũkenya ũngĩ tũkenda agere gacira gaka tũronire tũkĩgera mĩaka 5 ya Jubilee, tũtikanahũthĩre systems citũ cia EACC kana cia kũngania magoti ona kana DPP kũhinyĩrĩria andũ tondũ marĩ na mũrũgamo ũngĩ wa gĩũteti. Ngenda kwĩra Kenya maũndũ macio nĩ marathire na thirikari ya Jubilee matikamaigua rĩngĩ, na ithuĩ tũikarĩire tena tũthĩnĩkĩte ũguo tũrathĩnĩkire mĩaka ĩyo 3, na njuge nĩ ũndũ ũrĩ thoni mbere ya ciana cia family citũ, harĩ arata aitũ, andũ arĩa tũhũraga biacara nao, rĩrĩa ũgũtũrĩtwo igoti-inĩ ũgĩtagwo mũici, o thirikari ĩkĩmenyaga wega atĩ nĩ ma ndũrĩ kĩndũ kĩa mũndũ wehutirie na nĩ mangĩamenyire gũtirĩ, tondũ rĩrĩa twarutaga ũira nĩ twameririe ũguo, no nĩ mathire na mbere na andũ arĩa nao twarutaga wĩra nao makĩambĩrĩria kuma threaten marute wĩra nĩgetha tũtuĩke nĩ tũgũtwarwo igoti-inĩ. Njuge maũndũ maya rĩngĩ tũtikenda kũmona bũrũri ũyũ nĩ tũgũthondeka mawatho marĩa magĩrĩire. Borithi national kĩrĩa hairwo independence ya gũkorwo marĩ na accounts ciao, makĩra na accounts ciao, matikanetĩkĩre kũhũthĩka rĩngĩ mũndũ akauga atĩ heo orders from above, tondũ onakorwo heo orders from above mũndũ nĩ arĩire muma wa kũruta wĩra, na arĩa mararĩho tondũ nĩ mangĩamenyire mamenye no tũgũthiĩ kũmera atĩ nĩ tũrathĩnĩkire mũno na no nginya tũcoke igoti-inĩ nĩgetha matarĩrie atĩ nĩ matitherwo nĩ mamenyaga o kuma mbere tũtiarĩ na mahĩtia, matarĩrie kana no ũnyite mũndũ ũkĩhokaga nĩ ũkona ũira, tondũ nĩ maratũherithirie family citũ irathĩnĩka, biacara citũ iragwa, no nginya tũcoke igoti-inĩ nĩgetha tũtherie rĩtwa ritũ.